Okay, so have you ever walked into a place and it just felt wrong? And I don't mean spooky, more like a physical warning.
Absolutely. That feeling you're describing where the hair on the back of your neck stands up, it's primal.
Yeah, exactly. Like your body's telling you to turn back, don't go any further.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at today. A story out of Jalisco, Mexico that reads like a real estate listing from hell.
A haunted open house. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so picture this. You're a real estate agent in Mexico, and you're given the keys to a luxurious cabin deep in the woods. La cabaña en el bosque, as they say. Your mission: to sell this secluded paradise to some millionaire looking for an escape.
Isolation can be a major selling point for the right buyer, but as we know, it can also be a catalyst for some seriously unsettling experiences.
And this story is full of them. From the very beginning, the agent felt uneasy about this cabin, even with a coworker alongside him during the initial visit. He couldn't shake this feeling that something was off. And it wasn't just the isolation. He described the silence as almost unnatural. No insects, no bird song, like nature itself was holding its breath.
Wow, sensory deprivation can do that to you. Mess with your head. We're so used to the sounds of nature, even subconsciously, that complete silence can be deafening. Every creak, every rustle becomes amplified.
Exactly. And as if the eerie silence wasn't enough, the agent sees a woman's pale face peering out from the trees, gone as quickly as he saw it, but vivid enough to leave a lasting impression.
Oh, I bet. Our minds are hardwired to find patterns, and in situations where we're already feeling vulnerable or uneasy, our imaginations can run wild.
So true. And you know what the agent did next? He decided to spend the night at the cabin alone, against his better judgment. Have you ever done something like that where you knew deep down it was a bad idea, but something compelled you to do it anyway?
Who hasn't, right? It's that weird pull of the unknown, like watching a scary movie. You know, you should probably look away, but you just can't help but see what happens next.
Exactly. And just like in a horror movie, things at the cabin escalate quickly.
Right.
The agent starts hearing laughter outside. The door creaks open seemingly on its own. He tries to rationalize it, telling himself it's just the wind or something, but the fear is palpable.
It's often the accumulation of small, unsettling events that gets to us. Each one on its own can be dismissed as nothing, but together they create this atmosphere of dread.
And get this, instead of riding it out at the cabin, he actually gets in his car and starts driving toward town. As he's chatting with locals at a gas station, things start to feel normal again. But then he makes a decision that I still can't quite wrap my head around. He decides to go back to the cabin.
Really? After all that, there must have been something drawing him back, maybe a sense of duty to the job, or maybe something else, something subconscious.
Maybe a little bit of both. But this time he doesn't go alone. He brings along a young man named Andres, who quickly becomes another witness to the cabin's strange happenings. Andres, even though he's new to this whole situation, he also feels like they're being watched. And if that wasn't enough, a potential buyer's team shows up, and their behavior is just bizarre. They keep talking about this cabin as a kind of beacon, a guide, almost like they were expecting to find something there.
A beacon. That sends chills down my spine. It's like they were drawn there by something beyond just wanting a nice secluded property.
Right. And as if on cue, things go from strange to downright biblical. And I'm not exaggerating. Remember the figure in the woods, the woman's face that the agent saw? Well, this time both the agent A and D, Andres, see her, and she's moving. Then they see a man who looks like Jesus, bleeding, wearing a crown of thorns, and just like that, he vanishes.
Now that is terrifying. It's like something out of a nightmare. It goes way beyond your typical haunted house stuff.
Completely. And here's where the unsettling energy of the cabin starts to bleed into the surrounding community. The agent tries to hire local workers, but they refuse to step foot on the property. They say the cabin has a bad vibe. But it's not until the agent tells him about his own experiences that the locals open up a little. They tell him stories about a terrifying woman in the woods, a malevolent presence that's been around for generations.
It's one thing to hear about haunted houses and creepy legends, but it's another thing entirely when the locals, the people who know the area best, are genuinely afraid of a place.
For sure. And you would think with all this weirdness going on, something would have been caught on camera. Right? The company car had cameras in it.
You think so, right? But when the agent checked the footage, there was nothing. Just static. A camera malfunction, they told him. But it makes you wonder what they were trying to hide.
And here's where it gets even weirder. Because back in town, Andres, the young guy who went to the cabin with the agent, he just completely loses it. Steals the company car and disappears.
Wait, so he wasn't just spooked, he went off the deep end.
Yeah, totally. The way it's described is like he was almost possessed, driven by something outside of himself.
Okay, now that's unsettling. And what of the agent? Did he just leave well enough alone at that point?
You would think, right, but no. He feels this pull to go back to the cabin to follow Andres' trail, and it gets even creepier. They find the abandoned company car near the cabin, and guess who's back? The woman in white just sitting on the porch, like she was expecting them.
This is crazy. It's like something out of a horror movie. You know when the audience is yelling at the characters to turn back, but they just keep going deeper into the woods?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens. The agent keeps getting drawn towards this one spot in the woods, the same spot that everyone's been whispering about.
Yeah.
And he starts seeing figures, feeling that oppressive dread again. And then in this totally surreal moment, he realizes he's running alongside Andres. And Andres is acting completely possessed, just like the source material describes.
So they're both being influenced by this thing, whatever it is.
It seems like it. And as if things couldn't get any more intense, they nearly fall into this huge canyon. But it's what they see at the bottom that's truly terrifying.
Yeah.
Multiple circles of people, all holding hands, facing a cave at the bottom.
The door. Remember the workers mentioned a door.
Maybe. But it makes you wonder about those people. Were they forced into those circles? Or did they go willingly?
Right. It's like, are they victims or are they part of something else entirely? Something we don't understand.
Exactly. And just when it seems like they're completely trapped, an ambulance finds them. An ambulance in a place where the locals said rescue teams never find anyone.
That's a relief, but also, what are the chances?
Right. It's almost like they were allowed to leave. But then as they're talking to the paramedics, things get really unsettling. The paramedic casually mentions that they never find anywhere up there alive, and that the bodies, they move each night.
Hold on. The what? The bodies move.
That's what he says. It's like this entity or force or whatever it is playing with them, toying with their sense of reality.
Yeah.
And then just as they're about to leave, the agent sees a pale, gaunt figure running towards the mountain. It's like the story ends with this haunting image, you know, this figure running off into the unknown. It's a final reminder of how much we don't know about that place and what happened there.
Right. It makes you think about all the people we've talked about. The Agent Andres, those potential buyers, even the locals who are too scared to go near the cabin. What if this entity, this force, whatever it is, isn't just drawing people in, but compelling them to return?
Like they have no choice.
Yeah.
They're just pulled back to that place.
Exactly. And what about those religious figures they saw? The woman in white, the man who looked like Jesus. Was that meant to be a warning, or was it something else entirely?
I've been wondering about that too. It's like this entity, it knows how to get into our heads, right?
Yeah.
It uses imagery that we understand, but twists it into something terrifying.
It's like it's speaking our language, but the message is all wrong. And those circles of people holding hands facing that cave, do you think they were being controlled, or were they willing participants in something?
It's a chilling thought either way. To have that much power over someone to take away their free will is a primal fear.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder what drew them there in the first place. What were they looking for? Or what was looking for them?
And that door that the workers mentioned, do you think it was a real door or more like a metaphor for something else?
I've always imagined it as a kind of threshold, you know, a thin place where the line between our world and whatever else is out there, it starts to disappear.
So after all this, after diving deep into this story, what do you think really happened at that cabin in the woods? What was it about that place?
Honestly, I don't think we can ever truly know. And that's what makes this story so unsettling. It reminds us that for all our knowledge, for all our attempts to explain the world, there are still things out there that defy logic and reason.
Things we can't control or predict. And maybe it's better that way. Some mysteries are best left unsolved.
Agreed. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them, theorize, share our own experiences, which is exactly what we want you to do. Head to our website and let us know your thoughts on this unsettling story. What did you think really happened at that cabin in the woods? We'll be reading through your theories and sharing some of our favorites on the next deep dive.
Because as always, even the most unsettling journeys are better faced together from a safe distance, of course.